Hello. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Welcome, party people.
All right, I see people jumping in. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Tools to Help Hard-to-Place Pets Get Adopted. We're going to give a few more minutes for everyone to jump in. See that attendee number is climbing, so go ahead and use your control panel to introduce yourself. Let us know if you're a member of Shelters United. We'd love to shout you out and say hello. Let's see where everyone's tuning in from. Hello, hello, everyone joining us. We're just giving a couple minutes for everyone to get tuned in. We'll start shortly. And in the meantime, please use the chat to say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from.
Are there any other St. Louisans out there? Any Midwestern folks?
I love that. Why don't we say where we're all from? Maybe we've got some people in our home state. I'm tuning in from Arizona, from Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, what's the temperature there?
Oh, we're probably like creeping into 80s today, low 80s.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
We're heating up here.
So I started off with St. Louis and it's, I think maybe, Katie, what is it? 50 or 40 even?
50 at best, but it's cloudy and feels chilly. I'm sure tomorrow it'll be like 80 degrees. It's fine.
It's 72 and sunny in San Diego. Looks like every day.
Isn't it always 72 and sunny in San Diego?
Yeah, we're super wimps. If it gets below 68, yeah, we're a wimpy bunch. Or if it drizzles, it's a big deal. But if there's any West Side folks,
There we go. I see, not sure if I'm not seeing the chats, but I see a hello from Katie, one of our panelists here today. All right, well, we were just giving everyone a minute to jump in here. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Tools to Help Hard-to-Place Pets Get Adopted. We're asking everyone to introduce themselves and where they're from in the chat box. If you're a member of Shelters United, let us know. We'd like to say hello. My name is Mariah, and I'll be your MC for today's webinar. I manage the marketing communications here at Shelters United. And today we are presenting Tools to Help Hard-to-Place Pets Get Adopted, presented by Shelters United in collaboration with our partners at Petfinder. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, go ahead and type them into your question box. You have a GoToWebinar control panel that'll let you chat with us, ask questions, and participate. And hopefully we're also going to have some time for questions throughout and at the end. So stay tuned at the end for us to get your questions answered. If we don't get to your questions or to all questions, don't worry, we'll get back to you after the webinar. We're going to be sharing a recording of today's webinar on Tuesday to all registrants and you guys as the attendees. So that's Tuesday, 3/29. So keep an eye out for the replay link. And there will also be a webinar handout to summarize some of the great talking points that you'll learn here today. So without further ado, let's begin by reviewing today's agenda. All right, we'll be kicking off today's discussion with some wisdom from our friends at Petfinder. We have Katie and Jessica here with us today, and they're going to be sharing some research from their adopters, analyzing pet postings. They'll be talking about creating pet profiles that get your pets adopted and making Petfinder work for you. Then Marcy from Shelters United is going to guide us through sharing who these pets are, not just what they are, creating connection, not commiseration, She's going to teach us about a concept called lifestyle context framing and why everybody loves a good story. And finally, we'll have time at the end for a live Q&A with today's panelists and marketing professionals, so you can answer all your, ask all your burning questions, and maybe share a story of a pet that's been really hard to place, so you can get some ideas and inspiration. We do have a full agenda today. We have 60 minutes full of amazing adoption marketing content. So instead of cutting out some of this really helpful info to make time for a Q&A at the end, we decided to share it all with you and get it all into your brain, into your hands, and then we'll stay on after the webinar as long as needed to answer your questions. All right, so let's get this party started. I'm proud to introduce you to Katie and Jessica. Let's talk about our first guest, Katie. Katie is a customer success specialist on Purina's Petfinder team. Her career started at the Central Missouri Humane Society as an adoption counselor, which eventually led her to a job at Purina. She manages animal welfare conferences for her team, and you may have seen her on the road in the past leading Petfinder workshops. Currently, she manages relationships with our Petfinder members and helps empower them to make the most out of their Petfinder pages. She lives in St. Louis, Missouri with her husband and 8-month-old daughter, and she has 2 dog models and 1 rotten kitty. We'll also be hearing from Jessica Arnold. Jessica is a marketing manager for Petfinder and Purina. Since 2018, Jessica has been building deep relationships with shelters and rescues, working to find the best possible homes for more than 1.8 animals every year through Petfinder. Also during this time, Jessica has worked with their Purina Shelter Champions to provide the best nutrition possible to the pets in their care as they await their forever homes. Prior to Purina, Jessica spent 8 years leading the fundraising efforts for the Humane Society of Missouri. Jessica came to HSMO through an extensive fundraising career that bridged the visual and performing arts, social services, and childhood cancer. Jessica shares her home with 3 dogs, 2 teenagers, and her husband of 19 years, Eric. Please, ladies, take the stage and share your marketing wisdom with us.
Thank you. So to get us started, I just wanted to do a little bit more background information. Purina has owned Petfinder since 2013 and is dedicated to Petfinder's life-saving mission. At Purina, we want to ensure that every animal has an adoptable home, no matter their breed, size, or age. There are many ways that we work to achieve this. One way is that we have a dedicated research team, and they're committed to research from the adopter point of view. We also have my team, the animal welfare team, that works with our shelter partners across the US. We leverage these shelter partners to understand what's important to them, to get their perspective, and then use that to inform our research path. Today, we're going to focus on research that we've conducted on hard to place pets. It's a topic that our shelter partners told us was really important to them. And we focus specifically on 2 types of hard to place pets that were identified by potential adopters. This has been a years-long journey with several different phases of research. So more about Petfinder really quickly. It's the largest pet adoption platform in the world. Millions of potential adopters come to our site every week, and on any given day, more than 200,000 pets are posted for adoption throughout the US, Canada, and Mexico. With more than 12,000 active shelters and rescues, we have 30,000 shelter contacts associated with those groups. And it makes Petfinder a community of animal welfare advocates that are passionate about saving lives. Petfinder celebrated its 25th anniversary last year, and we used this milestone to really start rebuilding our platform from the ground up. And as part of this rebuild, we're focused on leveraging data to help pets find loving homes faster. This means that we analyze trends and share our insights back with our shelter and rescue partners to operate more effectively and efficiently. We also began recently working with Shelters United to reach more of our members with tips and tricks to make Petfinder work harder for you. So to jump in and get started, First of all, we have to take a moment and appreciate the cuteness of my sweet little baby. This is Junebug. She is a shelter pet that came to us from a long transport from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And she has been our spoiled brat for the past 2 years now. She's part of the reason that I'm here today for sure. So when we think about my path to adoption or the path to adoption for everyone, we really wanted to start our research off with defining a hard to place pet from the adopter's perspective. So we did a qualitative research study, which meant we were digging really deeply to generate some insights that we could translate into hypotheses and then test those with a broader sample of people. So we did a real deep dive with 22 potential adopters, all who were planning to adopt either a cat or a dog over the course of the next year. It was a mix of demographics, both current pet owners and not pet owners. And we asked them what they thought would possibly turn them off from the idea of adoption. So take a moment and throw in the chat, what kind of things do you think would throw adopters off the path to adoption? What's something that would make them potentially less likely to consider adoption? And while you guys are coming up with ideas, I'm going to flip that because I created this slide and then I thought, well, this kind of worded negatively. So maybe we'll start with some of the positives while you all throw in what you think they said would make them pause. So what they liked was definitely the fact that they're saving a life. It was a lot of the emotional benefit of adoption. It was adding a pet to their life and on top of that, doing good for themselves and for society and for a pet. It was more than just choosing a dog or a cat that was perfect or purebred. This is the kind of person that's more interested in saving a life than having a designer pet. So it's really kind of all the feel-good stuff that kind of drives the soul of us shelter and rescue folks. But then the other side of that equation, the downside, is the tension point that's created when the adopters start to see the imperfections associated with a particular pet. And at that point, there becomes a tipping point where the emotional benefit and the rewards start to diminish. So essentially, it comes down to how much time, money, and emotion are they willing to invest and that they're able to invest, and do they have those resources available for any animal in particular. The two main attributes that would make adopters less likely to consider adoption are not really surprises. So if we go to the next slide, really, the big question is, what if they bring home the world's worst cat? And it's encapsulated perfectly in these two postings. I mean, it's fear of the unknown, and it's something that we all struggle with. And the only thing that could possibly be worse than bringing home the world's worst cat or a chihuahua that's a vessel for a traumatized Victorian child, which might be one of my favorite phrases ever now, is not knowing that you're bringing home the cat from the underworld or the chihuahua version of Chucky. When faced with the possibility of adding another living creature to your home that you're going to connect with on an emotional level, the potential for behavioral issues can sometimes cause adopters to second guess their instincts or their desire to adopt a pet. And really, it's behaviors that surround three main factors: aggression, destruction, and unruliness. So those are the things that are going to require investments of time, money, and emotion. So as adopters go through this process and start to second guess and step back, it's really important to acknowledge and sympathize with those emotions. It's a great time to educate. Most adopters don't realize exactly how long it can take for a pet's true personality to emerge once they're in the home. The truth is, as both of these posts show, humor and honesty go a long way, as does a brutally honest post that goes viral. But these two pets kind of summarize perfectly. Despite their clearly outlined shortcomings, both of these pets found permanent adoptive homes. And they were set up for success because the adopters knew exactly what they were getting into. And then that risk-reward equation tipped in the pet's favor. They knew what they were stepping into and they're prepared to take on that challenge. So really the moral of the story is preparing potential adopters and level setting their expectations can overcome a lot of the hurdles that are faced by fear of the unknown. The other main attribute that adopters cited as a barrier to completing an adoption is on the next slide. So, I mean, we all have health issues, right? Like even my cute, sweet little baby Junebug, who we swear is perfect, she's a chronic bedwetter. She was spayed way too young, and here we are with her on medication for the rest of her life. Like we all have health issues. Katie's crew is pictured here, and you know, I could go through their list of special, unique characteristics, but I'll let her touch on that later if she chooses. Discussing the chronic health conditions of any pet is really important in the adoption process, but it shouldn't be the main focus. Potential adopters have to understand the complete picture of a pet's life, and there are definitely people that will shy away from pets with health issues, but there are also a lot of people that are willing to kind of lean into those pets with special needs. The risk-reward equation is really driven by the uncertainty here. Pets with special needs, specifically health conditions, just like undesirable behaviors, create apprehension because adopters, and this is a quote, don't know what I'm getting into. So again, in our research, it came down to how much time, money, and emotion will they have to invest in this animal's health, and are they able to commit to that level of investment? So what is the reward equation? It goes back to the very first slide with Sweet Junebug. It's positive emotion, the feeling of saving a life. It's the emotional reward that can be even greater because it is a hard to place pet. So when you're convincing prospective adopters that it's about convincing prospective adopters that they and very few others are uniquely suited to care for this pet, and they do have the resources required to support this pet's successful home life. If we're able to show those potential adopters the rewards outweigh the risks, they're going to be much more apt to move forward. But respondents were clear on a distinction that has to be made that's outlined on the next slide. And that is the difference between special needs and a chronic illness. So in the minds of adopters, there's a spectrum, and clarifying where a pet is on the spectrum of health needs is very important. Pets with true special needs that didn't require frequent care or additional expense were considered far more adoptable. So a dog that is blind, or a cat, or an animal that's deaf, or a tripod, or ones that have basic differences that can still be accommodated for, are much more desirable over those that require like a regular medication or repeated vet visits. It goes back again, time and money, and that's a central barrier for many. So then the other thing that's really interesting here is that even with those kind of barriers, it does come back to the emotional connection. When given the time to connect with an animal on the front end and the ability to form that bond early on, it frequently overrides any doubt that they may have in moving forward with that adoption. So when we think about the past 2 years, this is a really interesting call out that we haven't researched, but we probably could dedicate resources to it because it's fascinating in my opinion. As adoptions moved away from a face-to-face interaction during the past 2 years and went to a digital format or a drive-by format, was it more difficult to place what we would classify as hard to place pets because there was not the ability to create that emotional bond on the front end? All of that fascinating. It was then when we decided to take it to the next phase of research. So we wanted to further investigate if we could change perceptions of hard to place pets through the way that we talk about them. So we focused on a couple of characteristics that respondents played back when talking about hard to place pets: age, lifestyle, and health issues. This was a much larger study. It was quantitative. It was an online survey. And it was, again, people planning to adopt in the next year, and they were presented with a series of pet profiles. And we were specifically interested in trying to better understand how they would perceive a hard to place pet through the individual pet profile. And so now I'm going to hand it off to Katie, and she's going to talk through our pet posting insights and look at how we took these learnings and kind of turned them into action on Petfinder. Off to you.
Thank you, Jessica. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I can see right now there's 366 of you. That's amazing. All right, so Jessica kind of touched on, she introduced that research, and we'll go a little bit deeper into that in these slides. But we also have touched on how adopters are defining these hard to place pets and how we can categorize them, right? So either if they have health issues, if there's some behavior issues going on, if they're older, it's really important to keep these categories in mind from the second that that pet comes into our care, so that we have a better idea of how we can set them up for success whenever we're posting them online. So right now I'm going to walk us through a little bit of a deeper look at that research Jessica mentioned, as well as some tools and strategies for posting those pets on Petfinder. So we can jump to the next slide. And I will say this little guy right here is Jessica's teddy bear, is his name, and he looks a lot like my scruffy little dude, Lenny. I am a sucker for the scruffies. So anyway, so in 2019, I'm really excited about this information. So I want to quickly start off by talking about our good with tags on Petfinder. So if you were posting your pets on Petfinder, you have a couple different options when you're listing a pet. And one of them is if you know if this pet is good with other animals. So I think we have cats, dogs, and then other. And then we also have if they're good with kids, if you know if they're good with kids. And we were curious if adopters were interested in this. So we wanted to know, are the pets that have good with tags in their profiles, are they considered more adoptable? Are they being adopted faster? Are they on the site for a shorter length of time, or is it no different? And we can jump to the next slide to show you the results, which are astounding. So we saw that senior dogs with at least 2 good with tags or attributes are spending an average of 20 days less on Petfinder. So that shocked me when I saw that. And then senior cats with at least 2 good with attributes are spending an average of 20 to 25 days less on Petfinder. This especially was huge for me because I know how hard cats can be to place, and I know we've got issues with getting cats out the door faster, and sometimes, especially with kitten season, it feels like you send one out the door and 10 more come in. So this was amazing to me. So if you know that the animals in your care, if you have any kind of indication that these animals could be good with other pets or kids, make sure you're using those tags on Petfinder, because this is really incredible data. So now we'll go to the next slide, which probably brings up your obvious question of, what if I don't know? What if they're not good? So some considerations that we can take. So if it's truly unknown, do we feel comfortable testing at intake if we are, and this applies to, I think, to shelters or rescues. So are we comfortable letting them unwind a little bit and then testing to see if we know that they'll be good with other dogs or cats? Or if we have other animals in our care, that would be awesome if we can test with that too. And then is that something we can immediately put on their Petfinder profile? Again, trying to set them up for success from the very beginning. And then what if they aren't? What if they're not good with other animals? Or what if they're not good with kids? And I think some things to think about there is, if you know for sure that that animal is not going to be successful in a home with kids or other pets, I think then we also have to look at, okay, so we have that label for hard to place with them. Are there any more? Should we look at health attributes, any other behavioral attributes that we need to think about? And then from there, really the secret is going to be to craft their bio in a way that is palatable and makes them attractive to adopters still. And Marcy is going to share some really great information on that. So we'll dive in this next slide. So Jessica kind of set this up before she jumped off about our second phase of research. So this was where we showed different adoption bios of a bunch of pets to these adopters, potential adopters. And we said, what's working for you? What aren't you liking? Etc. And here's what we saw for senior pets. I thought this was really cool. So what is working is the perceived loyalty and devotion of senior pets, the fact that they are more open to cuddling and love, and emphasizing those positive personality characteristics that they have. Maybe they are already house trained. Maybe we know that they're good with other animals or good with kids. What's not working is acknowledging that they might not have a lot of time left, and specifically the term golden years. This surprised me because I'm kind of a cheesy person in general, so I thought that was cute, but potential adopters said, we are not a fan of the term golden years. And then comparing a senior pet to a grandparent. And potential adopters, I thought this was really cool. Potential adopters that saw these profiles with this kind of content, their ideal kind of profile, were 2 times more likely to adopt that pet. So we can go on to the next one with our pets with chronic illness. So what is working here is highlighting that their personality can be just like every other dog or cat. The fact that despite their illness, they can still enjoy a full life, and then emphasizing positive personality characteristics. I think leading with positive personality characteristics. So what's not working, and I want to be careful with this, and I'll explain a little more. So they said that what is not working is very direct language around the special medical needs, but specifically starting your profiles with that information. So we found that whenever that profile led with, this is Lenny, and Lenny is my dog's name, and he has heart disease and he needs to be on medication, and you need to take him for an annual echocardiogram, that starting with all of the work turned people off. But we do want you to include what is needed and what kind of care is needed. So if you can start it off by those positive personality characteristics, what sets them apart from other pets, and then say, hey, Lenny has congestive heart failure, and here's what's required. That's going to make people more likely to adopt. And in fact, potential adopters that saw these profiles for these chronic illness pets were 1.5 times more likely to adopt those pets. All right, and we will dive into the next section here, which is just the takeaways and kind of wrapping that up for you. So number 1, I think the most important part here is to identify those potentially hard to place pets the second that they come into your care, and immediately try to think about how you can promote them differently. So if you know that this pet comes in and they have a chronic illness, or if you know that they're older, or if you know that they have some behavioral issues, it's really important to identify that at the very beginning. Don't wait for them to be in the shelter or in your care for a few weeks before deciding to promote them. The next one is lead with the positive, emphasize the positive. So do say things like she's a cuddler once she gets to know you. Do not say things like she's timid when you first meet her. So try to lead with positive. And then the third one is to use Petfinder to its fullest potential. So use those good with tags. Even if you don't know, you can select an unknown. And then be sure to come back to that pet's profile to update its tags if you've tested them with other animals or kids. And I think just in general, the more information you have on that pet and that you can include in their profile, the better. So now I'll throw it back over to Jessica to go a little bit deeper into those good with tags.
Yeah, so Katie's third takeaway really deserves a little bit more conversation. We fully recognize the hesitation of describing a pet inaccurately and being unsure of a pet's behavior at intake. And that's why we encourage you all to use unknown rather than know when first entering a pet. Don't unnecessarily limit that pet's potential adopter pool because of a lack of familiarity with the pet at intake. You can come back and update this information once you or your volunteers or your foster better understands that pet's personality. Using unknown also opens the door to adding those details in the pet's profile description and potentially driving a potential adopter to seek out that information in the pet's profile. Ideally, we'd love all of our potential adopters to read pet profiles, but sometimes we know that they're a little bit rushed. So listing unknown possibly makes them want to learn more and seek out that information. For groups that manually enter each pet into their Petfinder account, you're probably familiar with the section that's pictured to the right of the slide here. For groups that use their shelter software to automatically add pets to Petfinder, I'd encourage you to spot check a couple of postings and make sure that your health and behavior tags are loading properly. If you see an issue, we have a wonderful tech team at Petfinder, and Brent specifically is going to get a shout out because he's truly our import expert, and he can help make sure that those tags are loading correctly based on the shelter software that your group uses. Every shelter software is a little bit different. I mean, we could do an entire presentation just on shelter softwares and our import feature. So now I'm going to show you how potential adopters use the good with tags and how hard to place pets can move more quickly with them completed. So when we talk about excuse me, pet seeker profiles, beginning in 2021, Petfinder added this functionality that matched potential adopters with some of these good with tags. And adopters were encouraged to create their own pet seeker profile when they set up their Petfinder user ID. And pet seeker profiles exist for both cats and dogs. They were designed to be quick interactive quizzes that captured the basics of what an adopter needed for a successful match in their mind. This interactive tool turned out to be really popular with potential adopters, and we have many that have completed pet seeker profiles. And here's the real benefit on the next slide. When an adopter with a completed pet seeker profile searches for a cat or a dog, their results are ranked based on the information that they've provided and the information that you all provide in your pet profiles. So that match comes up with the search results that you see on the left of the screen. So what you're seeing is my search results page for a cat search, and is accessing my cat pet seeker profile. So you'll notice that some of the kitties are a strong match and others are a good match. Those matches are being made from the details that I've provided and the details that are in all of those cats' individual pet profiles. There's also even a lesser match that does not have a flag. It's just a search return. And those are pets that have not a lot of overlap with the specifics that I have, but they still match the basic criteria of the search. Potential adopters see the information on the right of the screen when they're in an individual pet profile and they click that Start an Inquiry button. This snapshot was designed specifically to help all of our shelter and rescue partners with the barrage of inquiries that you all receive for all of your pets. So we heard very loudly and clearly from our shelter rescue friends that they were frequently overwhelmed with the quantity of inquiries that they were getting, and they couldn't always respond to all of those inquiries, especially when they posed questions that were already answered in each of the pets' profiles. So now, potential adopters get a quick visual summary, a snapshot of what they were searching for and how this individual pet stacks up before they send that possibly redundant question that you don't have time to read. This is just one of the ways that we're working really hard to try and make your lives easier while still getting your pets adopted more quickly. And it also demonstrates how those good with tags can surface what you previously considered to be a hard to place pet into search results. So we're continuing to make improvements to this process, and we will continually be adding new features and functionality going forward. But now I'm going to hand it off to Marcy from Shelters United, and she's going to dig in more detailed way to crafting those perfect digital pet profiles.
Great, thank you so much, Katie and Jessica. That was really wonderful information. I bet everyone was typing and writing like crazy. So if you were, don't worry, we have a webinar handout for you that we're gonna share with the webinar replay link next Tuesday. So keep an eye out for that. And I do want to address, I bet a lot of you have figured this out now, but it seems that our chat is disabled, but we do have a questions box. So I am receiving your specific questions, so feel free to use that as a chat feature. And I see some questions about the unknown tags, a lot of great information regarding the Petfinder info we just heard. So we will address all of those questions at the end. But first, we're going to get into some more juicy marketing info from our team member, Marcy. I'm proud to introduce you to her. If you followed our Shelters United Facebook page, Marcy is the voice of Shelters United on social media. She started her career in animal welfare as a part-time employee of an animal center, picking up social media because no one else at the center had the time to do it. Over a decade later, she's still using social media as an engine to save and enhance the lives of pets across the country. Marcy's career path has led her to a wide array of industries, including financial planning, animal welfare and advocacy, and virtual veterinary care services. Marcy is also a veteran public speaker and has taught professional social media practices to animal shelters and rescues, empowering them to voice and share their unique missions online. She enjoys reading, gardening, and traveling with her family. Marcy lives in San Diego, California with her husband and her rescue pup, Ginger. Please welcome Marcy.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice that you all are here. Oh my gosh, there's over 371 of you. That's so exciting. So I'm Marcy, and again, just overjoyed that you're taking the time to be here today to invest in your work. And I love what you all do. This is a photo collage of me. That is my dog, Ginger, who I adopted in 2009. She is a literal ray of sunshine in my life, and you'll see her a little bit later. But I also wanted you to meet the reason and the person why I'm in animal welfare. And the gentleman on your screen is my dad, Lee, and his military working dog, Lucky. My dad was drafted in Vietnam in 1968 and got placed in a new special scout dog program spearheaded by the Army and the Marines together in a very rare partnership. His job was to lead the troops through the jungle and to discover IEDs, tripwires, and traps. It was the second most dangerous job of that war. I take my job and animal welfare very seriously, as my dad would not have made it home without that dog Lucky, and if my dad didn't make it home, I wouldn't be here. So I am always grateful and understand the absolute preciousness and importance of animals. So today, I'm going to go over just a brief recap of what I'm going to talk about. I know you got a lot of good information just now. So today we're going to talk about foundational marketing methods for hard to place pets. You can really use these methods for any pet. It's not just hard to place, but it does work very well for them. And some of these methods are focusing on who these pets are, as opposed to just what they have. Creating connections with supporters rather than making people feel bad about them. Sharing these pets in a way that a potential adopter can literally like see your post and imagine that pet in their life. And storytelling methods, because everyone loves a really, really good story. And also this works not just for finding adopters, but really just generating interest and awareness for your organization. So you've heard Jessica and Katie talk a lot about personality. And so when I was kind of building this new talk, I was trying to define what personality was, and I had a kind of a hard time doing it. Like, what is a personality? What makes up someone's personality? So I Googled it. Google University always works. And so I found this really easy to understand way of defining what a personality is. So it's moods, attitudes, and opinions. A mood is a state of mind or being. An attitude is how you think or feel about something, and then an opinion is a specific viewpoint about something. And so on your screen there, I have mood words that they're both positive and negative, but we always try to focus on the positive mood words. But it's nice to have that list in your back pocket. So when you are crafting an adoption profile or a story, you have a list already ready to go. And there's tons of these sites. If you just look up mood words, you can have something in your back pocket on your computer ready to go. And I feel it's helpful for me to have that kind of resource because it helps me focus and it saves time when I'm discovering who this pet is and how I'm going to write their adoption profile. An example of that is Ginger, again, of course. Really, if I had to define her, she's literally like the smiling emoji. Like that's just her personality in a nutshell right there. But her moods are she's joyful, she's a ray of sunshine, she's goofy, she's playful. she lives for the moment is her attitude, like carpe diem, you know, no bad days is how Ginger is. And she has very specific opinions about a few things. Like one of her opinions is she does anything good, like a good sit, or she waits at the door, or you know, she comes when she's called, she gets a treat. That's just her very strong opinion. She waits for her biscuit. Or also, we just had daylight savings time. She is very she believes mealtime should be the same time every day, and she doesn't understand time changes, and it's a farce, and where's my dinner, darn it, I want it. So that's just an example of what a personality profile could look like using my own dog. But what if we don't know exactly who we have yet? Maybe we just got this pet in, and we haven't really had time to get to know them very well. And yes, there will be memes. This is a social media presentation, sort of, after all. So yes, memes are a part of that because the internet is memes. But that's okay if you don't know who they are. Generally, we know, you know, we have buckets of hard to place pets, you know, like a senior pet, and we generally know most characteristics of what that type of pet would need. So again, having that list, having a list in your back pocket on your computer, what is a common thing? What is a list of common things that some, maybe like a senior pet, would need? A stress-reduced home, gentle, understanding people, someone with a lot of patience, perhaps someone who's compassionate, really empathetic, or people who are at home a lot. And try to build your narrative around what kind of environment or person that type of hard to place pet would need. Another great kind of eye-catching tool is a great name. If you find a relevant name, something that has to do with pop culture, a great name can really catch an eye because you can do a lot with a great name. Rhyming and alliteration, although sort of dorky sometimes, I will admit, they can also be really eye-catching. And I have 2 examples in the next slide. And these are just pets that I made up. They're not real, but I did make them in Canva. That's Canva, Canva. If you are from a nonprofit, you can get a Canva account for free, I believe. And it's basically like a really easy Photoshop. You can really add a lot of pop. You can add text and stickers and all kinds of fun fonts and stuff like that. So it really does help. It's a good tool to have. But I have these 2 pets. Maybe a senior pet. The kitty I named Ruby Sue. For whatever reason, names with 2 names, people really like them. I don't know why. I don't have science to back that up. I'm sorry. It's just from my experience. But Ruby Sue, who's a senior pet, she enjoys chill vibes, gentle pets, would thrive in a serene adult home. We know that a senior cat would probably need these things or probably prefer these things. And then Scooter, my little beagle friend, fake beagle friend, I said, Scooter, he can't be cuter. You know, another cute rhyming thing, I know, dorky, but he would be your pawfect work from home companion. He loves snacks, snoozes, and sunbeams. And that is alliteration, using words with the same first letter. And again, it's something a little silly, but hey, anything goes, anything helps to try to get these pets in front of people. And remember, we want to catch those eyes. The second foundation is to create connection with the pet, not pity for the pet. And I really liked what Jessica and Katie said about how we always want to be honest and transparent. But let's do it in a way that is for your viewer to be able to receive that story or receive that adoption profile. Not everyone is always emotionally available to receive a heavy story or read it right away. And you know, I'll be honest, guys, the last couple of years it's been hard. It's been a hard time. And doom scrolling is a term that was coined. And so I think there's a way to honor our audience and potential adopters by telling these stories and sharing these profiles in a way that leaves people feeling connected, empowered, or uplifted and not just bummed out. We want to create partnership is really important with our supporters. This also really helps with just audience retention and building that trust between potential adopters down the road or potential donors. It's kind of like, come along with us. You're a part of the solution. If not for just this pet, you're a part of the solution for all pets. And creating that partnership will really help. People will come back for that content because it makes them feel good, and it gives them a positive a feeling in their day. Next slide. Okay, so how do I do all that? 2 ways I like to do. These are 2 of my favorite ways that anyone can do with a little time and a little creativity. You don't have to be like a super fancy writer. You just have to have some time and be creative, or have people around you to bounce ideas off of and be creative together. So the first one is showcase pets in a lifestyle context. So that's showing them in posts where people feel like everyday posts that everyday people do, where someone, a potential adopter, could see that photo of like, you know, like Ginger, she loves to sleep in a derpy, funny position on the couch, and she's just really funny that way. Maybe sharing something of your hard to place pet doing that in circumstances and environments where a doctor can look at that and imagine that pet in their own life. The second way is to tell their stories, because everyone loves a good prequel. Backstories are all the rage. That's why Marvel movies are huge, because everyone feels so connected to those stories and everyone feels so connected to those characters. Yes, that is the Avengers as cats. That is Jenny Parks, who is a brilliant artist. You can go look at her online. She does shirts and stuff. I'm not sponsored, not an ad. I just love her artwork, and it's hilarious for us cat folk, us cat ladies. I got her artwork on my wall above my computer. But stories stick with people. Even if the listener isn't able to adopt at that time, they may remember the story because they just like the story and they connected with it, and maybe they'll tell that to someone who can then adopt or donate or do something good for your organization. Next slide. Okay. Showcasing pets. So when we meet someone new and we discover that they are a pet lover at a conference, or I was just recently at spring training in Arizona for baseball, and this happened to me. What do we do when we meet a pet lover? Oh, I gotta show you photos of my dog. Oh my gosh, you know, the phones come out, the camera rolls are flying. People love to share and take photos of their pets. So what are those photos of? What are they doing? That is kind of the environment that you'd like to try to share media of these hard to place pets in environments that a potential adopter is familiar with. I have just a little list. There'll be a larger list in our handout for next Tuesday that we'll release. Interrupting your Zoom meeting in a home environment, walking around the block, in the Starbucks drive-through, you know, making the barista laugh, you know, all those environments, those are everyday things that everyday adopters do. And by showing that hard to place pet in that environment, you're immediately creating like a real life connection. And the second way that I like to share hard to place pets is through storytelling. And I love this article. This is science that proves that storytelling is super powerful. Storytelling actually brings people together and helps the reader and listener retain information. And when we experience stories together, when you're hearing them, if you're in a crowd, if you're reading, if you're at a movie, what's crazy, and I love this quote, the more closely the brainwaves pattern mirror the storytelling and everyone listening. So remember when I told you the story about my dad? It wasn't just a fancy intro. I was telling you a story because I wanted us all to be connected together. Right at the top of my presentation, it wasn't, I just wanted to create a moment for everybody. But I bet if I asked what year my dad was drafted, or perhaps maybe what 2 branches the military partnered together, you probably remember that, because it's interesting how stories and facts kind of go together. So everyone remembers a good story. And I love these themes that I pulled. These are themes that we all love to watch, like Netflix or, you know, Amazon Prime or whatever. When we binge through, these are the themes, some of the themes that we watch for And these are all themes that your hard to place pets have had in their life, if you know their stories and if you can tell their backstories. Struggling with a challenge, picking yourself up again, optimism in the face of adversity, loyalty, unconditional love. Like, we can all relate to that. And those are themes that our hard to place pet stories do have if we're able to get that information. Okay, next slide. So this is kind of the nitty gritty, just a quick way that kind of like a little checklist of like the information that's important. We want to get the details, of course, any background info. Transport partners are a good place to ask for that if they know. Hey, anything you can tell me about where this pet came from, their life before. Important dates. Of course, we want to get those personality traits, you know, as soon as possible, like Jessica and Katie said. And as we're collecting the details, we want to collect visual content as early as possible, because you want to tell that full story of that pet in your care, and not only their story, but also how you help them and showcase your own organization's good work. So that's at intake, photos of checkups, interacting with people. Foster families are like, you don't need me to tell you how important it is to get photos and videos from them, right? Like, they're already in a home environment, so getting them to understand that they need to get photos is like really important. Then when you have all that data and you have all that visual content, you create the story, write that adoption profile, decide if this is just a social post based on what you have, or is it appropriate for a more long form story that would be best in an email or something. Decide where it should go, and then get your story out. So get that adoption bio with all the good with tags on Petfinder, your website if that is applicable as well. Deploy your social posts and even local media. And I have a really good nitty gritty tip at the end about local media that you can connect with. Okay, memes, so many memes. If you are rolling your eyes at me, and I hear some of you doing it in a good way, for stating the obvious that like foster families should send more photos, that's how we solve this. Yeah, I get you, it's hard. And in my decade of doing social media for an animal center here in San Diego, it boiled down to this equation right here. This was probably my #1 challenge, was the people who know the information about the pet and getting that information to the people who don't know. Like head desk, like constantly, like, oh, I would always get after the fact of like, oh, didn't you know that pet, you know, came from this crazy situation, but they got over it, and I just like, I wish I knew that like 2 weeks ago when I was writing this adoption profile. Like, you're killing me, Smalls. The answer to that is on the next slide, is that everyone in your organization, doesn't matter if they're staff, volunteer, whatever, everyone is on the marketing team. Everybody, it's everyone's responsibility, but everyone has vital information and can help getting your hard to place pets adopted, no matter where you fall in these two camps. Obviously, your frontline workers, your caregivers, your amazing like adoption counselors, the folks that answer the phone, that do intake, your vet professionals, all of those folks are the folks that have that information. And the folks that don't, anyone in fundraising perhaps who's telling those stories for good opportunities to get you know, a grant or any kind of donation, outreach team, those responsible for sponsorship, business relationships, and of course anyone on the social media marketing PR team. But we're all in it together. So how do you communicate that? Because that's a big ask. Next slide. It's a long process. I called those people who had all that information my evangelists, and it was a constant training process. So communicate that bigger picture during onboarding, training, and orientations. Repeat if necessary. This is a collaboration for us all. Ask them for their ideas too. They may feel really honored and part of the team if you want to get like, what are your ideas for, you know, this hard to place pet? You know, how should we share them? I always said, chances are, if you found a pet being funny, heartwarming, moving, inspiring, then a potential adopter will too. Also communicate that to transport partners as early as possible about story leads if you're able to. Whiteboards are a great fast way for staff on the go. They may see like, oh, Fido did this silly dance today. We might want to get that for a social media post. They can write that on the whiteboard. You can check it, get that story lead, and off you go on getting a video about it. And also give credit where it's due. If you're able to say, oh my gosh, Fido got adopted because you saw his funny dance on Facebook and their family came in, thank the staff member or the volunteer who told you that. It would feel really good to know and reinforce that teamwork with you. Next slide. These are just some ideas on writing and framing the story. I know sometimes it's really hard to sit down and be like, okay, time to be like, write the most earth-shattering viral post right now. It's hard to do that. So a couple of starter questions, and again, I have more of these in the handout, so please don't feel like you have to write at breakneck speed or like, you know, take a picture on your phone unless you want to. But you know, these kind of help bring out that personality that like Jessica and Katie were talking about earlier too, about what do they love, what do they bring to a family, what does their best day look like. All of that can help you craft a really good adoption profile and story. Obviously, we want to set expectations about what this pet's care would look like and educate. Even if you educate and, you know, say someone saw it, they may not be ready to adopt, say, a diabetic cat at this moment, but maybe 2 years down the road, they kind of have an idea of what that would look like. Maybe in 2 years they would. So all that education, you're just planting seeds down the road as well. If you're able to offer support to that adopting family, say it. That's also really important if you're able to go with the transition period as well. Again, more story ideas will be in the handout just to help that those creative juices go. If you have time to craft one really good post or 3 medium posts in the same time, I would say go for the really good one. Quality is better than quantity, especially on social media where the algorithms aren't great now and engagement goes down and are not being shown to everybody like we wish they were. Really focus on that quality type of post and set aside creative time, even if it's just an hour. That's always really helped me be able to be creative and be mindful and really focus my time on crafting that great story or profile for a hard to place pet. I'm going to skip. This will be in the handout. I'm going to skip to that local media thing because I feel that's really important. And go find journalists in your local community. See, like Google online, if they mention a pet in their bio or mention animals, follow them on social media and start engaging with them. Send them a story after a couple weeks. You never know who will pick up a great story. I have found this works so well, and so go to Twitter and find that. And if you do PR releases, morning producers for local TV stations often determine the day's story. So if you can find that morning producer's email, use it, definitely. And make sure to optimize those profiles on Petfinder as well with the good tags. And my last spiel is if your brain is toast, that's okay. It's a lot of info, but just some key points. Share who they are, not just what they have. Create partnership with your folks. Help leave them feeling inspired and empowered. Create connection. Don't just let people feel bad for something that they may not be able to help with right now. All of your team is awesome team and everyone's on the marketing team. Quality is better than quantity if you have time. Those good with tags, I'm shocked. 20 to 25 days is astounding. So definitely really leverage those and experiment and persevere. I just want to leave you with social media is crazy. It's hard. It changes all the time. It can be really frustrating, but please keep experimenting and persevering because you guys are amazing. And I see your stuff every day and you totally got this and we're here to support you. So thank you. That's it.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you to our speakers for today. Such great information. Thank you to everyone still with us today. We're going to go ahead and take time for some questions. Just as a reminder, you can type those questions into your question box and we will see those. So yeah, I'm going to start diving in here. I invite everyone, if you haven't, all our speakers to load up your videos so we can see your pretty faces. Hello. All right. Okay, lots of good info. Everyone thanking us for this. Let's see. Let's dive into some questions. All right. We have some questions on the Petfinder profiles, and I'm just going to dive in and kind of bounce around to some questions. I have a question here. Are pets listed as mixed breed shown less than specific breeds in the Petfinder search results?
No, the pets listed as mixed breed would return in a search result that did not specify a breed. I don't have any more specifics on the functionality of that because I'm not a technical person, but it's all dependent on what the potential adopter is searching for.
And I would also quickly add to that, if you aren't sure what the pet is mixed with, I always recommend you can say mixed breed first, but we allow you to add a secondary breed. So even if you have just some kind of general guess, like let's say shepherd mix, I would throw that in there, just throw in shepherd, because you never know. If someone's looking, they think for a shepherd, they're not really, their heart isn't set on that, and they see your pet pop up, they might immediately connect with that. So if you have any kind of guess, I would just throw that in there.
Okay, that's great, Katie, because we had a question from Skylar, and he was talking about, is there a good way to say mutt or unknown mix when it looks like a shepherd? So that's interesting, using kind of looks like as a way to feature them on the profile, it sounds like. Interesting. Okay, cool. Let's see. We've got a question from someone asking, do you have any ideas to share more videos? We have several wheelchair down dogs and other scenarios that are hard to capture their abilities in a picture. Do we just need to do more Facebook posts with videos maybe, or can you upload videos to Petfinder?
You can upload videos to Petfinder, and we love it when our shelters and rescues do that because we do know that potential adopters engage more when there's a video that they can see.
Yeah, I love seeing videos, and I know, Marcy, you're kind of the expert on this, but something we've always shared in the past is try not to make those videos any more than like 7 seconds. I think that's like the attention span a lot of people have for pet profiles as they're scrolling through sometimes hundreds of pets. So even if it's something really simple, like, you know, taking a treat or something like that, if they take a treat gently, or if they can do anything cute and quirky playing with a toy, I think that's something really, really cute.
I would also say too, if so Instagram is super worried about TikTok, like really worried, TikTok taking over. And if you want to try to leverage video, I would say start with portrait, so that's phone up videos, start with a few clips and try Instagram Reels. They're not Facebook anymore, they're Meta now. They're investing a lot of different changes and templates and extending Reels right now. When you post a Reel, the chances of that Reel being seen is a lot higher than like a static post. And same on Facebook. They're also doing Facebook Reels as well. So it's called short form video. I would try and play around with that, even if it's like 3 clips that are like 7 seconds long and you kind of tie them together, you put some music behind them and you put them on Facebook Reels or Instagram Reels. TikTok is a big one if you want to take the plunge. And even YouTube Shorts. So yeah, experiment with that. I would love to see that. I'd love to see that content, yeah.
Can you have more than one video on your Petfinder profile?
I think we're limited to just one video at this time. Katie, do you know for sure?
I do not, but I can ping our tech team really quickly.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Hey, want to be in a webinar? Right now?
All right. We have a question about Petfinder searches. Do you have any idea if there's a most commonly searched feature? Would it be sizes, temperament, breed, age? Have any insights on that?
That question just speaks to my data geek heart. I
Right.
don't know. That's something that I would have to ask our data team to do a little analysis around, but that's a fascinating question.
I also quickly did just confirm it's only one video for Petfinder profiles at this time.
We had
That is
some
an excellent question, though. I'm not sure either.
we had some Petfinder advocates in here, like only one video. I know.
I always learn from people, and so in conferences, sometimes they teach me too. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
We all just share the info.
Yes. All right. What
And
else?
we also, just quickly, we got a note regarding that last question. Thank you to our team members who are in the webinar. Did confirm that most people search by breed first.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. All right, we have a story from Bree, and she'd like to get some inspiration from us so we can have fun talking specifically here. She says, my name is Bree, and I do the social media for the Humane Society of Southwestern Michigan. Hello, Bree.
Hi.
We have an absolutely gorgeous, hard to place 7-year-old male American Staffy. He gets a ton of interest, however, he is food aggressive, is not good with children or other animals, and is very nervous with people in the beginning, and also has arthritis. Is there any situation-specific suggestions on how to list all that without his bio looking too negative?
Let's see. I'm thinking of like chill, again, like chill vibes. Everyone is so into like the Calm app or the Shine app, like the calm meditation. So I don't know if he's a little on that end, during walks, or maybe if he's not into, a lot around him, if he's really focused on one person, you could do like, man, it's date night every night. You got this hunk with you, like he gives 110%. He's going to listen to you unconditionally. He's not going to tell you what to do. You could try and leverage it a little playfully that way.
And I was thinking about that Friends episode where Joey and someone tried to eat his French fry, and it was like, don't eat my French fry. Like something like that. My head was going back to that Chihuahua post that the tiny dog trapped in the body of a Victorian child.
You could do, what is it, Chris Farley and Dana Carvey in that old SNL where he grabs the fries and he's like, these are great. Anyway, Bree, I'm going to find you on Facebook. Humane Society of Southwest Michigan, that's what I'm doing right after. And I'm going to ping you guys. I'm going to look.
That's fantastic.
I'm going to find him.
Well, we do have people jumping off, so I just want to mention that we are going to send a replay of the webinar on Tuesdays. So don't worry if you have to jump off. We're going to stay here and answer some more questions for you guys. But thank you to everyone that needs to move on to the rest of their day. We appreciate you being here. We'll follow up with you. So let's keep diving in. These are fun. Okay, we have a question from Melissa. She says, how can you promote a pet who's been available for months and months without any interest? Is it good to mention that they've been around for a long time, or does that raise a lot of red flags? She's hoping to answer how to drum up new interest in long-term fostered pets.
I remember in my experience, and we did this for some special cases where, and I'm on the fence about it, but I just want to throw it out there for you guys. A name change could possibly really spark something new. I know that for storytelling purposes, so for example, for San Diego, a big deal down here is Comic-Con. It's a huge deal in July. Like, our city is infiltrated by nerds, me being one of them. I go. And so by maybe finding something in your community that people just freaking love and everyone talks about it for a month, maybe finding a way to tell that pet story in that pop culture of your community. That way it's kind of a fresh take. That might be an idea. I don't know what that would be for your neighborhood. Or maybe like a day in a life of this pet, you know, show them in a new way that way. Yeah, I know that's a hard one. And I've done name changes in the past, and with some who have worked and some who didn't, but I just want to throw it out there as an idea for you.
I would also think, you know, maybe take a look at the photos that you have. I'm sure you have amazing photos, or do you have a video you could add? And one way that you can tell if that is working for you is by going to your Petfinder dashboard, and you can see your stats. So you can see if this pet is getting more views. So it's kind of fun to, if you're kind of a data nerd, or even if you're not, you can go in and add some more photos and say, hey, did this pet get any more views today or this week? Did we get any applications? And kind of test and see if your theories are working. But I always think great pet photos too are going to make a big difference.
I would also add into that, first of all, yes, absolutely to video. I think this is a time when video makes a difference because it can really kind of get some interest that maybe wasn't there before. But also on a pet like that that's been there for so long, it's really an opportunity to be able to say you know the pet very, very well, and then you can really give a true account of why this pet would be so good in a home. So I think there's an opportunity to really personalize it and be able to kind of, you know, put some emphasis behind what you do know about the pet because it's been around you all for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Great. All right, we have a question from Deborah about bonded pairs. She says she wants to post them together on one post, and she doesn't think it would do as well to do 2 separate posts and then just mention the cat on the other post. So what would you guys recommend when you have a team that really wants to go home together?
Together.
Together.
Yes. Oh, so many duos. There's so many duo opportunities. Like, the names alone, like, are just endlessly awesome names. Yeah, absolutely together, because they're a unit, and especially if they're engaging with each other. Like, show how they love each other. Like, what do they do for each other? You know, does this one, the little more outgoing one, and this one kind of hangs back but provides like the introvert emotional support? You know, how is that interactivity, and why are they so special, and why do they need to stay together? I think that's really special to share.
Did the commenter mention if it was a cat dog or if it was cat dog? Like, what's the pair here?
She just said indicate the other cat on each. So I think we're talking 2 cats here.
Okay. Oh, that could be so much fun. Yeah, I mean, I think it always makes sense. And I know, I'm pretty sure that we're seeing more and more groups that recommend adopting out cats in pairs.
How would that work on their Petfinder profile? Would they literally make one profile for both cats?
Katie, do you want to take that one?
I was trying to unmute myself.
I saw you. I saw you looking.
So unfortunately, we don't currently have a bonded pair feature. We can absolutely add that to our list of suggestions because I know we've received a suggestion for that before. Some things that people do are they will put both names in the name field when you're entering that pet. So something like Bonnie and Clyde, and they'll say bonded pair in the name line, if that makes sense. And sometimes they'll do that for one pet listing. They'll put both pets in one pet listing, or sometimes they'll create separate listings. So we would suggest if you're doing that, so we would suggest creating 2 different kind of listings, one for Bonnie and one for Clyde, and you can kind of put Bonnie and Clyde, Clyde and Bonnie, just to get them a little bit more visibility. So there's a couple ways you can work with that, but at this time you can't specifically list a bonded pair on Petfinder yet. Hope that helps.
We have such great advocates in here. They're just explaining that exactly, Katie. They said we do 2 separate posts and we put the name and then bonded with this name and reference that listing too. So it's fun to see everyone engaged. We have Kelsey echoing to add that to your list, that she would be really excited about the bonded pairs.
I'm writing it down right now.
Awesome. All right, Kelly, let's answer your question. She says, when we're uploading hundreds of pets each year, what is a good way to keep them less redundant? So it sounds like Kelly, maybe we need to clarify, she keeps uploading profiles of the same pet and that feels like redundant work. Maybe let's get some clarifiers from Kelly on that one, unless you guys have a specific answer.
Well, I'm wondering if they're talking about maybe creating templates. So you can create a template in Petfinder that then gives you a starting point for an individual pet profile that you can customize. So it kind of just helps expedite the process a little bit when you have a lot of posts that you're having to make. That might be part of the question.
Yeah, she's saying we see a huge amount of Huskies and Shepherds with the same behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so maybe she like saves a Word doc with some of that information kind of stored as a template. It sounds like you offered that she might be able to kind of edit and tweak for each individual pet.
Well, that's something that you can actually do in Petfinder. So you can duplicate a listing, and then that gives you the ability to not have to start from scratch every time with similar information. You already have a basis, and then you just edit as needed.
Something that I think is really cool that I've seen if you're looking for fixing redundancies with just pet profiles in general, like I know that can be kind of tough. I've seen people do kind of like, if you remember Mad Libs, people have like a little template of like their ideal day would be this, this, and this, kind of like Marcy said, like what would a day in the life with them look like? I think that is such a good idea and so quick and easy and simple.
Love that. So many good questions in here. All right, one from Yolanda that's a bit different. She says, I haven't found a way to send an auto thank you for your interest response and adoption application through the Petfinder site. Is that possible?
It is. So I would say if you have any kinds of questions with just the Petfinder site in general, you're more than welcome to reach out to our team at outreach@petfinder.com. And they would have a probably much better answer for that. But we do send, it's called adoption interest forms. So we have an ability to send an email saying thank you for your interest. We don't necessarily have the ability to customize that yet. But yeah, if you want to reach out to outreach at Petfinder, they can give you a better answer for that.
Perfect. All right. So we're a bit over. We do still have some people hanging out and want to be respectful of everyone's time here. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. I want to say thank you to everyone who joined in with us. If your question wasn't answered and you want to connect with one of the panelists or the Petfinder support team, please let us know. I will be sure to direct your questions if you have any burning questions you'd like to have answered. All right, so thank you everyone. Thank you for our presenters, our speakers, for sharing your wisdom with us. Another reminder, we're going to be sharing the recording of the webinar on Tuesday, 3/29. It will include the webinar handout. Saw some questions for that, so just keep an eye out for that email. It's going to come from Shelters United. You can watch that webinar recording anytime, so share it with your team, share it with anyone who might find it helpful. You'll have the opportunity to share a little bit about what you learned today and how we can make future webinars more impactful for you. So when you exit your webinar here, take a minute if you can to answer just a couple brief questions. And thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
Yay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
everyone.